We want to bring in now Republican Congressman Andy Biggs of the great state of Arizona, member of the Judiciary and Oversight Committees. And he's also introduced legislation to bar judges from making sweeping decisions affecting the entire country. Great to see you today, Congressman. First of all, does this, as the president has called him, unknown district judge, unknown to the rest of the country, have the right to stop a U.S. president from sending the worst first, those who entered our country illegally and have done violent crimes and are suspected or known to be gang members? Does this judge have the right and the power to stop Trump?
No, I don't believe he does. Under the law, we're talking about what constitutes an invasion. This constitutes an invasion. That gives the chief commander-in-chief the unassailable constitutional right, in this case, President Trump, to say, no, we're going to remove these people. But it's actually more galling than that, because President Trump's conforming to the Constitution, and this judge is willfully not for political reasons. That is absolutely misconduct, abuse of power on the part of this judge.
So on the House Judiciary Committee, what are you talking about right now in terms of keeping this from happening? Or can you do that at all to keep this lawfare in this particular lane of stifling President Trump's power? How do you go against it?
Well, Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution allows Congress to limit jurisdiction. And that's what we're doing. So I have legislation that would limit the jurisdiction of federal district courts to only the litigants before them and the case before them, so you couldn't issue nationwide injunctions, Harris. Mm-hmm. We're talking about impeachment. We're talking about defunding certain courts and jurisdictional limitation on courts and the areas that they can rule in. But I want to point out something. Most people think that federal judges have lifetime tenure. Everybody is told that, but that's not accurate. Article 3, Section 1 is very clear that they only get to have their job during a tenure of good, and this is the quote, good behavior. And when you're abusing your power for political purposes, you have violated that clause, and you are subject to termination from your job as a federal judge. And that doesn't even require impeachment, Harris. What it requires is Congress to basically issue a resolution saying this judge is acting outside of his scope of conduct. He's engaged in misconduct and is not engaged in good conduct right now.
Wow, that is a detail I had not heard like that. I took copious notes. That's important to know, because you're right. We are led to believe that those district court judges have the jobs they're in for life. And you're pointing out, no, there's a huge exception, Article 3, Section 1. Thank you for that. Let's get to this. Yeah. President Trump's Justice Department is making it clear that violence against Tesla will not be tolerated. This comes after months now of vicious attacks from the left against Tesla cars, charging stations, and dealerships. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced yesterday 3 suspects will face federal charges for alleged Tesla attacks. And the suspected vandals, I don't know why we call them that word, because this looks like domestic terrorism. They are accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at Tesla dealerships in 3 different states. But many on the left still continue to call to support the calls to target the company and its CEO, Elon Musk. Watch.
And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes, I'm going to keep screaming in the halls of Congress. I just need y'all to make sure that y'all keep screaming in the streets.
And by screaming in the street, she means blowing stuff up and potentially endangering people's lives by going after their cars. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene pushed back. She posted a member of Congress is organizing political violence and terrorism. President Trump says he is looking forward to seeing violent Tesla attackers go to prison. Elon Musk posted Tesla has seriously ramped up security at all locations. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told me this yesterday.
President Trump condemns this violence, and he is determined to restore law and order in our country, and he will ensure that the harshest penalties are pursued for those who are engaging in this vicious violence that we have seen targeted at this American company, Tesla dealerships, Tesla employees, and also innocent Americans who have chosen to drive these vehicles.
A Wall Street Journal piece is asking, violent attacks on Tesla are surging. Is it domestic terrorism? Congressman, is it?
Yeah, absolutely it is. Under 18 U.S.C. 233, Section 5 defines domestic terrorism. And if you are engaging in a violation of any criminal act, whether it's a state or a federal act, and you're trying to do it to intimidate government authority or influence political action or an administration, in this case, is that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to influence and intimidate Elon Musk. They're trying to stop President Trump's policies. That is domestic terrorism. It meets all of the prima facie characteristics of it. And what's important here, what you just played and showed, is that when you are advocating for that kind of violence, that also is domestic terrorism under the statute. And it needs to be investigated and prosecuted. And so I have every confidence that Kash Patel is going to do so, and Pam Bondi is going to do so.
Well, we are hearing silence from Democrats on this. And remember, they've railed against domestic terrorism for years. Watch.
Domestic terrorists. They must and should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
This was an act of domestic terrorism. Now, we as members of Congress take an oath to protect the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
The domestic threats we face in our country are taken seriously and dealt with. We just have to draw a line in the sand and say, this can't be the way we move forward as a country.
So just so you know, we are working on this in this way. Fox News has reached out to 13 Democrats who sponsored legislation to combat domestic terrorism. Not a single one of them has yet to respond. We'll wait. A new opinion piece also calling out the liberal media on this. Why doesn't legacy media refer to Tesla terrorists as the far left? Quote, if the roles were reversed and the agitators were right wing, these very same people would be up in arms and protest and outrage. Yet, when the left engages in such activities, the hysterics and performative politics seem to disappear. Congressman, yes, we can call out a double standard, but this is so much more than that. This is hate. This is hate in motion when you blow up people's things and you endanger their lives.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Harris. And not only is it's duplicative or duplicitous and hypocritical, but what they're doing, they're doxing ordinary people who happen to own a Tesla. They're doxing them and basically encouraging violence against them. And if that isn't a civil unrest, as that you've gone beyond civil disobedience, you've gone beyond protest, you're fomenting violence. And when these Democrats sit silent on that, and they're not, some of them are not sitting silent, they're encouraging this kind of conduct. That is actually criminal in nature, and it is hateful. It's hateful to the country and hateful to people and individuals, and it is